Good evening. I thought that I would start out by thanking anyone who is viewing my videos and supporting my page, anyone who is passing the videos on to those who might enjoy them or who might get more out of the poetry knowing where that they came from. In my normal Saturday video, I mentioned that I would be doing a kind of bonus thing this week. One of the poems that I have put up before in the Monday poll has never been chosen. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that even if people did choose it, it would be an impossible story to tell given the complex nature of the poem and the complex nature of the source of the poem in just one Saturday video. So I thought that those of you who have been watching regularly and will be watching regularly deserved a little bit of a bonus. So this is a thank you for supporting my page and supporting my art and passing it on. It's also, this poem, Pieces in Parts, is a 3-part poem that took me 3 years to write. And as you watch the videos about Pieces in Parts, you will realize why it took me 3 years to write and why it reflects an experience that many people have that ends more optimistically than it began. It's an intensely personal poem about a intensely complex and difficult part of my life, which led me to where I am now and led me to where I was able to publish, where I was able to be who I am today. So, a little bit of the background, because Pieces in Parts was written at a time in my life where everything had changed. Now, my life, as many people know, it wasn't perfect, but it was pretty damn near perfect. I wasn't sheltered by any means, or, I wasn't, I wasn't overly challenged. I grew up in a beautiful, wonderful suburban home. I grew up with a fantastically wonderful nuclear family with supportive parents and siblings and an extended family who loved me very, very much. So, my life wasn't perfect, but it was great. It was, more importantly, stable and went to plan. I grew up in the typically, American suburban land. So it was a step-by-step kind of thing. Everything went to plan. I did what I needed to do in high school, got all the good grades so that I could go to university. I went to university and I got what I needed to do from university. And then I pursued my year abroad, even under extreme conditions during 2001. I met someone. I fell in love with someone. I finished my degrees. I moved to England in order to be with the person I had fallen in love with. We got married. Everything was step by step the way it was supposed to be. And then the next step, after having been married and sharing a place with my husband, the next step was getting my dream job. So I was working at a horrific bar job to keep the bills paid while I waited to try and get onto the graduate teacher program or the university version of the teacher training program so that I could be a teacher, because that is what I have wanted to be. So while all of that was going on, all of that step-by-step process that seems to be all on the map, all according to plan, all to expectations, falling in love, getting married, getting together, getting the dream job, all the while, mainly towards the end of 2010, 2011, my inattention, my assumption that life would continue as planned was sideswiped by some realities that I had missed. So, while fighting to finally achieve my dream of being a teacher, I lost the dream of a happy marriage that I thought I had. Now, I need you to understand, because there's a lot of people on here and a lot of people who will see this that knew me during that time, that despite what happened, there is no blame, not from me. I am exactly who I am supposed to be. I am exactly where I am supposed to be. I am in the best job I've had in my life, and it is exactly as fate and destiny kind of determined it to be. So there's no blame on anything that has happened in that path, but that path did lead me a little crooked. There is a beautiful song about the broken road, and it is exactly where I stepped onto when I wrote the first piece of Pieces and Parts, which was originally intended to be a standalone poem, where everything that had happened to me kind of culminated in this shattered feeling. So after being asked for separation, and everything was divided, all the stuff, there wasn't much of it, but all this stuff had been divided, I chose to move house. I didn't have to. The choice was mine. I chose to move closer to the new job that I had, which was going to enable me to have the financial standing and the financial stability to stay in the country. So the day I moved in to my new flat and essentially began my new path for the second score of my life, so to speak, was July 9th, 9 years ago. And so that is one reason why I'm doing these extra videos, is because this is the time. July 9th is when I wrote the first piece of Pieces and Parts. And anyone who has suffered a reconstruction of their life should recognize themselves in this poem. And it's part of the reason why it was one of the first ones that had to go into the collection, because I want people who have been through that destruction and reconstruction of their life and that recovery to understand that there are other people who have felt as they feel. The two other pieces map out that recovery, and they will be covered in 2 more videos this week. But the first piece reflects the deconstruction of the old, the left with the remnants, the feeling of uncertainty about what's next, and it means it's meant to feel fragmented. It's meant to feel unfinished and stilting and broken, because that reflects how I was feeling at the time. I was starting a completely new life. Now, if you've seen the video on Defining Alone, Define Alone was written 2 or 3 months after I wrote the first piece of Pieces and Parts. So there's a lot of interleaving going on with how I was feeling and developing through this period. But Pieces and Parts, the first piece, is meant to feel fragmented and robotic, because that's how I felt. I was going through the motions. I was unpacking my boxes. I was figuring out how I was going to deal with it, where I was going to go, whether I was going to end up moving back at some point, whether we were going to get back together, whether my life would get back onto the path that I originally thought it should be on, whether I thought that life would become according to plan, or if there was going to be a new plan, or if there was going to be no plan whatsoever. And it's meant to be ambiguous. When something this dramatic changes, it should be different and dramatic. But I think that there was still, even in that complete kind of empty, ambiguous, shattered state, I still had that measure of optimism, which enabled me to step onto that new path with conviction, with faith that it would all turn out okay, and with the support of my friends and the support of my family and the support of my new job, which was in fact my dream job, which I had sacrificed a lot to get, that I would be okay. And that little bit of optimism should be shared by anyone who has been through that kind of life change. Now, as we go through this week and you see the other 2 videos, I want you to think about if you have ever experienced that kind of life change. The recovery is possible, and recovery happens slowly. And I'll explain more in the second video. But right now, I want to leave you with the last verse of the first piece. Thought by thought, the pieces come together. Nothing remains. Anything is possible. And that is how that first piece finished, with that open ending. I have no idea what's going to happen next, but anything is possible. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in a couple of days to look at the next piece.